recording.
Thank you. Awesome. All right. Well, welcome tonight, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Amanda Miller. I'm the executive director of the South King Tool Library, as well as royal messer-upper of all Zooms. But we will make it work. And I am very excited to have this class to be able to share with everyone the great experiences we've had, to utilize Christina's vast knowledge and to hopefully answer some questions. Just a quick promotion here. We are very grateful for funding from the Department of Ecology from Washington State and their public participation grant, and the EPA's Region 10, if I can remember, Healthy and Resilient Sustainable Communities grant, which is amazing as well. And that is how we get to do some things like this. Christina has been a fabulous volunteer with the tool library, and is just a really cool person. I've gotten to know her over the past few months, and has, you know, overcome amazing things only to really find success in this niche. You know, there's not a lot of women contractors, and I can't tell you how accessible she really makes things, how really patient and diligent and intelligent she is. So without
now my head won't fit on the screen.
I know, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Christina, I'll let you talk. I don't know if you
yeah, I did, but it is recording now. My name's Christina Winters. I'm a general contractor. I fix houses. I specialize in remodels, house touch-ups, basically just making everything look new again. A lot of the time it's just fixing those little glitches. So of course, if I can help, here I am. Are you gonna freeze again?
Of course, yeah, that's about that time. So anyway, so I was hearing you a little bit. We kind of retooled the idea of what this class would look like and wanted to open it up to more of an open forum for people to bring their questions. I know it's dinner time for a lot of folks. I know you might have jumped on last minute. You can't necessarily think of things, but feel free as we're going through, if you wanted to raise your hand or put something in the chat that you have a question on. Or just, you know, patiently wait. I know there's technical things. Thank you for your patience with me. So Christina had a couple things she wanted to share with us, and a lot of really experience isn't always good. So that's, but we learn, and that's the good thing. That is what I try to teach my kids. So did you want to go over maybe some of your recent encounters and how that's shaping your opinion today?
Well, I don't know about opinion, but again, I go into houses and help fix them back up again. So there's some things that I come across regularly, and there's a couple things I came across twice just in this last couple of weeks. And Amanda and I have already been over that these tools are at the tool library. So you can perhaps do something about it yourself, or let me rephrase, know if you need to call someone. So two of the houses I went to recently had a outlet that was out. Both of these houses had the same problem, and the outlets were scattered. So one's on one far wall, one's over in a spare bedroom, one's, you know, they're just scattered outlets. Just a little construction knowledge. When they do wiring in your house, the walls aren't up yet. So they're going through floors, and they're going through here, and they're going through there. And they put so many outlets on certain circuits that come through the breakers. So I don't know if you've seen your big breaker box. It says this goes to, you know, appliances. This goes to your hot water heater. Well, a lot of times when you're looking for the outlets or the lights for your house, you don't really see which breaker that goes on. A lot of those are attached to a breaker or a outlet in your bathroom or your kitchen, and they usually have a button on them. If you don't have any buttons on your, I did not bring one of those. If you don't have a button on your bathroom and your kitchen, one of the outlets, only one needs it, then you probably should have one installed. But this is a little gadget
And you're talking about like a GFCI button, right? Like
The GFCI, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I guess I probably should have.
Mhm.
But this is a nice little gadget. And Amanda says they do have one at the tool library. And this has little lights. So all you do is you just plug it into the outlet here. And these little lights will pop up and you can't really read it, I'm sure, but it tells you what's going on with your outlet. So if you don't see anything, that means that there's no power. And before you call an electrician or a contractor and they come and bill you, go through and reset all of your GFI breakers, just that little button. Now, sometimes it's really, really hard to tell, or because you don't think it's connected. So one of the houses, it was a spare bedroom off the side wall that was actually connected to the bathroom GFI that was, I don't know, 50 feet away, a couple sets of walls, but they ran that circuit from there through there. In another house, it was a living room wall outlet that was actually connected to the GFI in the kitchen next to the fridge. And there's no way they would have thought that. So, I went in, first I checked the outside breaker box. They were all good, no problems there. And then I went through and just hit all of the reset buttons. Hopefully you have the newer GFI and it'll have a little light on it, a little green light or a little red green light. And those should be on. If it's red, then you need to reset it. And usually there's still power going to it. That's all you need is a reset. And that will often turn on the outlets that are in random places in your house. For instance, this bedroom that I'm in right now is on the second story, but it's connected to the downstairs half bath GFI. So if you're going outside, you're going through, you're like, where is that? It trips down there. So do those things first. Check your outside breaker, make sure all of your breaker circuits are in, go through, hit all of your reset, all of them, even if they're random places, and then plug this little gadget back in and see if your power is good.
So
Yes.
question, so if your GFCI trips, it won't necessarily trip the breaker. But if you did know which breaker it was on, could you flip the breaker and that would reset the GFCI?
No. So your GFC is to prevent your breaker from flipping. So that's a safety step. That's keeping the power from kicking back into another power source. So you want them, and you want them to trip if something's not grounded, if your power is running around, you really want that to be the stopper. You want the electricity to stop there before it gets to your breaker. Most of the older houses don't have them, but usually if there's a remodel or contract or something's going on in the bathroom or the kitchen, usually someone will say, yeah, you're going to need at least one in here. So
I know what the initials stand for.
Oh.
Ground fault current interrupter.
And this little thing, oops, sorry.
I had no idea, Catherine. Geez, that's showing me up.
So this little thing here tells you if it's your ground that's bad, if it's a wiring problem that's bad, if the juice is just not coming through all the way. So these are fantastic. Now, I want to show you these other ones. This is just a pen. Oh, actually, that's a different, never mind. I don't want to show you that. I don't want to use that one. So this one will tell you your wattage. So this is nice just to see if you're having power, but the reality is it doesn't explain like the other one does. So if she's out of this one, it'll say, oh, look at that. That's a much better picture. If she doesn't have this one in stock for you to borrow, wait. If you're not using that outlet anyways, it's not going to hurt you. You can do this one just to check for the power. It'll just say on, and it'll tell you if you're getting 110 or 220. But then it doesn't really tell you what the problem is. So
220, isn't that amazing? Like, isn't that the garage usually? Isn't 220?
oven.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the oven. I just think of welding, and that's not.
So I
I
have something to add. So those little devices that'll tell you whether your thing has power coming to it is really good. I was changing out all my smoke detectors, and I thought I flipped the breaker for the right room, and I did not. And if I had had one of those things, I could tell if the current was still coming through, but instead things sparked, and I'm lucky I'm okay.
Yes, I have made the mistake because I do a lot of coaching. If somebody just needs, help, they want to physically do it, but they just need help. And I've made the mistake of having someone else go, hey, can you go hit this breaker? And they come back and then I go to do something and then my hair is curlier because I should have checked the power. I just assumed. So in one case, we were taking out, because you can take baseboards out. I strongly recommend that. Pretty easy. And then you can just put an insert in the wall. It's the same power source, the same, everything will run through the thermostat. I'm like, it's an easy process for me. But so I said, can you go hit the breaker for the heaters? So he turned off the hot water heater, but not the baseboards. So that was a nice little jolt, but I should have checked. Okay, are there any more questions about that?
I have a GFCI outlet that I have to replace, and I'm
Yes.
intimidated by it. It's in the bathroom. Is it easier or is it harder than I probably think?
My experience is that it's easier than you think, and especially if you turn off the power. But anything running off the breaker, I would recommend, where's my legal liability? Technically, you should get a licensed, okay. Oh, I didn't give that spiel. So when you go to the doctor gives you a look over. And if you have a specific problem, like say your eyes, your doctor says, hey, you should go see the optometrist. It's not my field. I do a general, look at you. But if it's specialized, you need to go see someone specialized. So I'm a general contractor. For electrical, you really should go talk to an electrician or YouTube it if you want to tackle it on yourself. But for the most part, things like changing out lights and changing out those, cut the power off for sure, but most of them are pretty easy. But as far as diagnosing the problem, like I said, 2 houses today were like, these outlets aren't working. And all they needed was just a reset on their thing. That's something you can handle yourself. If you know that, if you can diagnose what the problem is and it is something to fix, when you get into the wiring of your house, you should seek advice.
Yeah.
I
I don't see anything in the chat really, and I haven't seen anybody put their hand up yet, but I was going to suggest we talk about, and I think I put this out there, like the things, safety. I think I've talked to you and other people about certain housekeeping, literally or figuratively, but things that you can do for safety to prevent like huge problems, and not just, fires, but I know the lint expulsion for dryers. So the tube that goes to your exterior that reminds you that you're doing laundry when you walk outside. And then the bathroom exhaust fan have always been like the things that I hear about, and I'm like, oh yeah, I need to check that. I need to do that. And I'm going to donate to the Jewel Library after I finish one of those extendable things, because we didn't have one, and I was like, well, I need this to clean my I don't even know.
Does anybody know what she's talking about?
Do you know what I'm talking about? Anyone?
Okay, so here's more of a breakdown. So a lot of times your dryer is working and then it's not working as well, and then it feels like it's not working at all. So out of the back of your dryer is it feels like a cheap, awful hose. And
Yeah,
they
you can
plug
call
it into
a giant conduit or like something.
Yeah. And you're looking at it going, what exactly does that do?
Popcorn
Well, that is
foil. That's what it makes me think of.
Okay. So it blows all the hot air outside. But in the process, you know how you clean out your lint filter? So a lot of that lint and debris gets caught in the pipes, not just in that hose. That will fill up as well, but in the okay. But in the actual house. So some people's dryer vent goes just out like straight, like it just hooks to the wall and it's right out there. So those are really easy to clean. But what Amanda was saying is hers actually funnels quite a bit through the house. So kind of like you have a snake for your toilet, right? It runs the same way. You
Mhm.
just kind of wind it and it keeps going and keeps going. She got one to clean out the dryer vents. And again, that is a safety hazard. It's not just inconvenient to have your dryer stop working or not work as well. That all of that stuff gets in there and it can cause a fire because it's very combustible. It's like that lint that you clean out of your thing, only it gets compact, compressed, and it jams the pipe. So
And if your opening is, it goes to the exterior of your home, and little critters love and gravitate towards the
do.
warmth of things. So I know, not in mine right now, but in another house that we lived in, we definitely had some little critters that were in there, and that is not unusual route for them to come in through those things. So
We had
definitely.
birds. We had birds in our oven vent, and we didn't know it. But the cats would get up on the oven and look at the ceilings. We're like, "There's something going on." Found out there's a huge bird nest in there.
Oh.
well, and that's also what they like to. It's also normal for them to use that for like building materials.
Right.
So they like to take that lint and they like to, so it really attracts them. It attracts the little rodents.
And
So, okay. So this last question, I'm sorry, when I'm pausing, I'm trying to read the questions, and I do have a little mental log going on. And they all kind of go together. So again, it depends on how close it is. From your dryer. The last question was about the, do you run your little snake thing? Do you run it from inside the house to the outside or to the outside to the inside? So one is try shop vac before you do anything. So like in mine, I have probably about 3 feet between the two things. So you can get one of those shop vac extenders. So first I'm gonna, I don't have one of those.
I have shop vacs. I have lots of shop vacs.
Yes, no, shop vacs are wonderful. No, but your little dryer vent is actually just usually 99% of the time put on with a little tie thing. So it's got like a little metal thing. I mean, it's kind of accordion. So in one of those sections, it'll have like a metal thing, and then it'll have a screw. If you screw it the one way, the metal thing closes up. Sorry, I got a boo-boo on my finger. It's pretty bad. You guys probably didn't seem to see that. Always use your safety equipment.
PPE, very important.
Very important. That was actually just being stupid. But so you screw it the one way and the metal tightens up. You screw it the other way and it releases. And it's usually just a flathead. Sometimes it's a Phillips, but most of the time it's just a flathead, and it's usually really big too. You could use like a dime or a quarter or something if you didn't have one handy. So you just loosen that up and then take that off and then take it outside. If you don't, you'll regret that decision. So take it outside and shake all of that out and get the accordion cleaned out, and then take the shop vac and run it through. And you can kind of tell, how far is it reaching? In Amanda's case, she knows that it's pretty large, and you ran it from the inside to the outside, didn't you?
I did both, or I'm gonna go back and do it again because I just wanted to get things out, and there's a lot. So
yeah, and again, it's better to do these things once a year. Of course, you always think it hasn't been a year yet. And Amanda, when was the last time you cleaned yours?
Yep. I didn't glitch.
Okay, so she said that there's there's a lot, and it's been very problematic.
Yeah. But so, I think there was a question about like heating of the dryer, and would that actually cause the heat for it maybe not to heat properly, or for it to deteriorate?
I mean, the different brands, and again, it depends on if there's a trip on it or not, because some of your dryers are just designed to not get too hot. So if it can't force that heat out because that system, because it's generally a pretty long system between the accordion and then out to your house, and then of course yours is even worse than most. So if that heat can't go out and there's a trip on that dryer, it's going to turn the dryer off. The dryer's going to say, nope, I'm overheating, something's not right here, and it'll stop. In some of your older dryers, you just won't, it won't heat as much. It'll just kind of short it. It'll just, so it doesn't. And
So it
it could
doesn't catch
eventually
on
just stop
fire.
working.
Yeah, some of the newer ones
Yeah.
have like those fail safes. Now the heating elements do go out on those too. And it's hard to replace those. I've looked at how to do that in other models, but you, depending on how new your dryer is too, it might be just tripping so that, you know, it's not gonna spontaneously combust, or it might be that the heating element's going out, which is another talk about planned obsolescence another day. So we'll go back to that.
Yeah.
But
So,
that was a good question. Yeah.
the way
did you wanna
that-
say something else?
yeah, the way that I read that question though, that same one was about the newer dryers, just, they don't feel as hot. So like your older ones, because they didn't have the same insulation, they felt really hot and you're like, oh, my dryer's working. And then the new one, you're like, oh, it's not working. It's not hot. And that's not necessarily the case. They're just insulated better. They're made out of better materials that handle the heat better. So if it doesn't feel hot to the touch, but it's still drying your clothes, I wouldn't worry about it. So the other question that came up was about the bathroom fan. And a lot of times it's the same issue as with the dryer vent, which is it just needs cleaned out. And those little tops on them usually pop out really easy. Take a shop vac up there, take a rag, that grinding noise. I don't, if you've been in an older house, a lot of times you can use a WD-40, or there's another grease that I like to use, you know, run it again, spray it again, run it again, get that in there. A lot of times that'll take care of the problem. But it seems like you said that they turned the power off.
Yeah, disconnected. My brother disconnected the power and he said he'd replace it for me. So I ordered a new one. It just stopped. It's relatively new. It was like 5 years old. And it just stopped functioning. And I pulled out I always vacuum out around in there and it's pretty clean. It's just, I think it broke.
Well, I did want to touch on that. We'll talk about drywall. So I did want to touch on that a lot of times people are like, this is just, things just get old. Seals go bad. Wood. So I did bring a little show and tell with the screws. And they're like, the cabinet doors are getting loose and the this and that. And it's just over time, wear and tear. Everything goes. Unfortunately, a lot of our more modern appliances and things have those warranties. And I don't know if it happens to the rest of you, but it seems like warranty is over at 5 years. It breaks at 501. And I don't know if they time it out that way because then you buy a new one. But they are made with kind of cheaper materials, but that's why we get them for cheaper. And they're made to be installed by a layperson. So
yeah, do you think I can just pull it out and put the new one in?
I really, if your brother already worked on it, he probably knows, but I would say 80% of the time that, yeah, they can just be pulled out and put back in. And then there's the ones that are structurally sound. Those are going to be your older houses where it is like built into the frame. And then, yeah, for those ones, I say get a repair person to fix it. Because if you have to really tear open your wall to be able to get those bolts out, it's usually not worth it. And for the most part, the guts can be replaced. But that's more of a machine person to do that. But if he's already done that, he's already worked on it, he probably already knows what he's doing. So it's, yeah, it's just unscrewing a few things. There's just turn the power off.
It is, yeah.
And then and then just rehooking up the wires, rescrewing in the new one, putting the lid back on.
Can I add, I replaced my bathroom fan, so yes, you can do it yourself. But the hole wasn't quite big enough for the new one, even though I bought what I thought was the right one. But so if you just get a little drywall saw, you might have to saw a little bit of this, but. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I measured the dimensions. It looks like it's the same basic thing. Okay, good. I just needed
And inevitably, when you get into the project, something else will arise that you don't realize. That's like the theme today, right? But
yes,
yeah,
that's the theme.
That's why there's a tool library, and Melissa knows exactly where we are. So that's, just let me know if you need any tools.
So if you are, and again, as far as I'm concerned, they're really 80% of them are really easy. It's literally just a couple bolts and screws, and then the wires turn off the power. You disconnect them, you reconnect them the same, black to black, red to red, white to white. Do same, and then just bolt in the new one if your dimensions are the same. And double check that. And sometimes it might be worth it to return what you have and get one that does have the right dimensions. If it doesn't work, just because then you don't have to deal with the drywall and the sheetrock and stuff like that. Oh, what I wanted to say though was always bring a shop vac when you do that. That's what I wanted to say. Because once you take that out, it's got a lot of grease and grime and water, and I mean, not water, but where, how your ceiling in your bathroom turns black because of all of just the moisture. Yeah. So if you're going to do that, I would definitely have a shop vac handy and some rags and some cleaning stuff. Okay. Was there another?
There was a question about blinds and
Yes, that was it.
yeah. Is there a good
Okay.
place to have them fixed? Oof.
So unfortunately, pretty
But
much
which
have to
kind
see
of
the
blinds?
blinds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
mini
what kind of blinds? Because there's
or-
and then I've seen them where they're like a material. I've seen them automated. There's the wood slats. There's the wood slats going this way. There's the plastic ones. I would need more information.
Rosanna,
if
did you
they're-
want to say?
Yeah, it's a wood slat. Can you hear me?
Okay. Oh, okay.
One of them is the wood slats.
Okay.
There's a hole, but I won't say why, but there's a hole that got in one of them. And so I feel like I can bring that one down to the bottom, but I don't know about
Yes.
restricting them, or if it's easy to do that, or should I
Oh,
try, or just have someone do it. And then another
Mm.
one is like the accordion blinds, the cloth ones, and one of the pull strings broke, and they did send me the replacement, but I just don't know if it's worth tackling that, or if you guys know of somewhere that I can get it done. fixed.
well,
You could always bring
I
it
would-
to a repair cafe.
yeah. Yeah. But because blinds run so cheap nowadays, it's really the cost of getting them fixed, the labor intensive of fixing them may cost more than just replacing them. In a wood, now you said it's got a hole. Is it like a big hole or like just a cigarette burn hole? Yeah, because you might be able to just use a wood filler on that.
Oh,
If that's the only problem with it and it's wood, they
yeah,
have,
it's all the way through, but it's not very big.
yeah, so you might be able to just do a wood filler, do a little sanding, and then maybe have like little stain pins. They come in a variety of different colors and
Yeah.
just touch it and you may never see it again.
Yeah, it's white. So.
Oh, white, that's easy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and another thing I was going to say, bring it to a repair cafe, which, yes, Cammie, I think we have a date for April 9th will be our
Yeah.
first repair cafe this year.
Is that what do I need to put that in my calendar?
Oh, if you want to, you are
Yeah. I'm
welcome.
surprised you
to
haven't
join.
talked to me about that before.
I know, it's a thing, but
Yeah, it's okay.
my other concern with like bringing blinds is I know with my experience with blinds is that they need certain tensions for them to set properly. So if you have the fabric blinds and then you take them down, have them repaired, and then you put them back up, they might not have the same tension, but it depends too. I mean, also if you have the part and you have the thing, it can't hurt to try to fix it.
Yeah,
So-
that's where that really goes is if it's something that you thought you were going to toss anyways,
Mhm.
what difference if you damage it trying to fix it? I mean, if you were already planning on tossing it,
Yeah.
so
Not
And
the
we're
cord.
all sorry, I talked over you for a second. What was that, Rosanna?
Oh, just not the accordion one, because that one was pricey and nicer, but yeah. And then if I could ask one more question, we're kind of redoing our laundry room, and I haven't seen this anywhere except for like on YouTube's or whatever. Have you heard of those drawers and stuff you can have where like to lay things flat, and then it has to dry, like those clothes that I buy things to do it, portable ones, and they never hold up and they're a mess. So, and they have a fan in there, so it kind of blows air. Have you heard of that, or is that something?
Is it the one that goes in the dryer, or is it just in a remodel adding to the,
Yeah, it's like a drawer. They're like
okay,
trays, and you can lay your wet, garment to dry, and then close the drawer so it looks nice. They have like that white plastic material, kind of like what you'd see in a dehydrator, the trays.
That's
Like-
exactly what I was thinking. Like a dehydrator, like
I think,
Fan to dry, so to air circulate, so it kind of dries the the
wonder if
garment.
that's more energy efficient. But what do you think, Christina?
I think that if you are a person that takes that kind of time in your laundry and that you lay things out, that would be worth the investment. My aunt's I'm one of 10 children. My mom is one of 13. And I'm extremely close to my aunts, and there's, well, there was originally 11 of them. So the other 2 were boys. Don't you feel bad for the boys? Anyways, but one of my aunts is very meticulous about her laundry, and she does do that. She, doesn't dry things all the way through. She lays them out, and she has like a netting. Is it like a netting type material? Like
Yeah,
not a
that's
solid
what I've
plastic. It's
seen.
yeah.
Yeah.
So she has a tray system that she uses to lay her sweaters out on, or her nice blouses, or her things like that. She doesn't have it. It's not necessarily set out in a closet, but that could be. Then she'll never put it away. You put it in the drawer, you close it, and then you're looking for it and going, what did I do with that? It's in the
Yeah.
closet.
I've got the portable ones, but they never seem to hold up right or be the right shape. And then it seems like you need to lay it on something, so.
But I know that it's very common in Europe that they have, and then they have the other drying racks, and that's something that they use for. So if that's important to you, then yeah, it's probably worth the investment. I think it probably just installs with a regular outlet, so I don't think you'd have to really change that much structure in your.
Okay.
I feel like I've seen that on some of those like Japanese gadget like TikTok things. I don't know if you guys watch those. I watch them because I'm weird, but I love like seeing all the tech and innovative stuff that they have. And it'd probably be pretty easy to kind of do yourself, take the back out of one of those IKEA cupboards, and then putting a fan in so that it circulates or something. But try the approach the blinds probably first. If that's
She said she's already in the process of doing the laundry room.
I know,
So
and I know she has a handy husband that helps her too. So I know that it's totally capable and good, but it does sound like magic, just to be clear. Tammy brought that up. It sounds very, very cool.
yeah, I'm one of those people that let's just say I don't iron. I have definitely been known to wash my work rags with my clothes. And that's but for some people it's important. Okay, I really want more questions, but I really want to address really small things that come up. It's definitely a while you're here kind of thing. So a huge issue that's very problematic for your day-to-day life is your towel racks. And that is something I get all of the time, is the bathroom towel rack is falling and the kitchen towel rack, and the culprit is usually a piece this small.
Or my children, just saying.
Yeah, but it's usually actually that plays into this.
Yeah.
Okay. So if it's the bar thing, like it's still secure against the wall, but your bar thing is working, there's just a little itty bitty screw. And to be honest, a lot of times the people they think they've lost it, but they haven't. It's actually still attached in there. It just takes, generally it's an Allen wrench. And that just needs to be screwed back up. Like you put it back in place, and then you stick the little thing in there, and yeah, you glasses and a flashlight. And all you have to do is tighten that back up, and it usually just cinches that right back up there. And people are like, oh, it's a miracle, it's fixed. And I'm like, it was just a little screw. There are occasions that it is not one of these. It's a little flat. And I own, of course I do, little screwdriver heads that are just, well, actually, you probably use the same size for your glasses.
And I definitely have these at the tool library also, just by the way, because
Yeah.
we have all the different Allen wrench and screwdriver heads you could
And
possibly
they're
imagine.
metric. They're metric,
yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
so they're different sizes. So yeah, go check them out. A lot of the stuff that we're talking about, you don't need to buy. You're only going to use it once every 6 months, once every 3 months, and you don't need your garage or your laundry room full of tools. I do, but that's my thing. So the other culprit is, remember I told you the wear and tear, just sheetrock, drywall just starts to deteriorate. Wood over time, wear and tear, it just starts to deteriorate. So the other culprit is often your screws in your wall. If they got mounted in a stud, fantastic. Absolutely best thing in the world. Yeah, she's shaking her head.
Never
No,
happened.
because
Never
where
happened.
you want your towel rack is not where the studs are. And then your studs are placed, so far apart, and you only want your towel rack this big, or you only want one little hole. So usually there's a molly, whoever it was that installed it the first time, sheetrock, anchor, you can call them whatever. So it's one of these, a little hole gets drilled in your drywall. One of these gets put in. There's another tool you should check out. And then the appropriate size screw, I have a whole kit here, goes in, and then this is what's fastening it to your wall. So number one, if you have these little mollies in there and they have come out, again, children is a huge, they grab it and pull. So your little itty baby screw was still attached, but they just pulled the whole thing out of the wall, and now you have a hole in your drywall. Depending on the size hole, these come in a variety of sizes. And I actually just made this mistake at Jeanette's house, to be perfectly honest. So I like to start with the smallest size. And then over time, it is going to wear and tear. It just assume it's going to. Over time, things wear out. I used to not need glasses. Now I'm wearing glasses. So usually start out with a small one. And then when that drywall gets kind of ripped out a little bit, you can just move on to a bigger size. And you want it to be snug. So if it's still slipping, it's not big enough. But they get really big.
What's the secret to making it fit the first time, though? Making the small one fit? Catherine says it never quite fits. Is it?
What do you mean?
So I follow the directions on whatever I'm doing, and I drill a 3/8 inch hole or whatever for the molly, but then it just squishes when I try to tap it in. So I feel like I have to drill a bigger hole, but then I have a big old hole in my wall. So what am I doing wrong?
Sometimes it is a question. So I like you can buy anything, right? I like these little handy dandy kits.
Or come
Where's
to
my
the tool
camera?
library first, because we have a ton of these things, because
Yeah.
people use exactly 3 of them and then bring them to the tool library. So just,
Didn't I just donate? Oh no, I donated to somebody else's house. Okay,
please don't
but
donate
here's
them.
why. If you hang a lot of pictures and you do need to buy it, the reason that I like this little kit is because it literally comes with the right drill bit for every single one of its little sizes.
So is the rule that you go towards you drill the size of the smallest end of the molly? Right?
Actually, you
Or
want it kind of, it depends
in
on the
between?
molly. The ones you get in your kits. So like, I never use the ones that come in a box. Do I have, because the ones that come in those sets to install they're just lame. They're just absolutely lame.
Well, in depth
I
too,
don't have
right?
one
Like,
handy.
so if your drywall is usually, the depth, but behind that might be something else. That could be why it's squishing too. So
Yeah. If you didn't go all the way through. And that's one thing when you've got your drill though, if you're hitting something, if you've got a stud there, you don't need your molly at all. You just need a big screw. So, but for the most part, again, drywall is very tender. People, Well, if you've had children around, you know, you can dent it, put a hole in it. So that's why I recommend the rubber mallet. Again, check it out. You don't need to own one of these for all the time. But if you use the rubber mallet and you just tap, 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 tap. So what I'll do with my, I just put it away. What I'll do is if it's not going in right away. Now you don't really want to, oh, I guess I have to squish them. But if you've got your drill in your drywall, this is a little phallic, sorry about that. And you've gone in and it's just fine, but then your molly's not fitting. It's only, so like in these, see how this branches out? That's why I like these two, they're a lot more sturdy. If it won't go past that point, then what I'll do is I'll use the same size bit, but in this case now, this is definitely phallic, sorry about this, ladies. But then I'll just kind of move it a little bit. So I won't use a bigger bit. I'll just kind of just barely scrape a little bit more drywall. And then usually, and just tap on gently, just gentle. There's no need to force it. And if it's still not going in, then pull it out and just barely edge out a little bit more. Just, I'm not taught, don't go with a whole huge side, just kind of give it a little bit more edging.
And you don't
then-
want to, don't change the angle, don't angle that, because that's a big way to blow out your hole. That's weird again, sorry, but this is, you want to actually move it maybe up and down and left and right in like a shape or round, so you don't end up with a wider hole on the outside than what you have going on the inside.
Oh yeah, because that can make things problematic. So another way of handling this though, is to use a bigger screw. So especially if you've got the cheap ones that come in your kit of whatever it is that you're installing, they don't have, so these have a branch out, and then it squishes in while it goes into your drywall, and then it bounces back out again, and that way it doesn't come out very well. A lot of them, often they're yellow or white, and they just, you know what, I actually might have one sitting over there now that I'm thinking about it. But with those, so what you want is you want the space to be filled in the drywall. So sometimes if you take out your screw and that is still lodged in there, but you're not getting a connection anymore, you can use a bigger screw in it, and that will fill in that gap as well. So always try with the simplest fix first and then move on to the new projects. Now, if you've gone through all these sizes and now you've got this big hole, they have anchors as well, where you take the metal in, and when it gets to the other side, you pull it like this, and it will anchor on the other side of the drywall. And those are usually, yeah, it'll flare out. And then it's not a question of whether or not the drywall, it's this side is now braced with this side on the things of it. But those usually require a really good size hole. So I wouldn't start unless it's, now I use those a lot for handicap bars. I install a lot of handicap bars. I work for multiple nursing homes. So I do use those to start with for a handicap bar, but not for a picture or a painting, and definitely not for a towel rack. You want to start with something smaller to begin with, and then move bigger as time happens. And it's just part of time. It's just part of fun. So while we're on,
I was going to say, just kind of circle back to one of the other questions. But were you going to say something about the anchors again? I was going to start about drywall, maybe ask. So
go ahead and hit drywall.
Well, so say you're past the point where you can replace a screw. The hole is quite large, and you've been to my house, so you know this is something I have encountered. But Donna had a question about a 9-inch by 3-inch, which is just kind of too big for like a small overpatch. So I guess if you want to maybe just touch on like the steps of that, what replacing a tiny patch of drywall looks like, other than like the 3-hour explanation. What's the threshold? Because I know you can patch with like mesh, or is it like a more than 2 inches and you want to go to a piece of drywall? Is that kind of the rule?
Well, I will tell you, number one, that is something I consult with the homeowner on where the place is and what it's being used for. And are you going to want to re-put a screw there? So if it's someplace that that's where you want your towel rack, you don't want your towel rack anywhere else, then you really need to repair the sheetrock, because if you use a little piece of mesh or anything else, you're not going to get any traction there. So if that's an area that you want to re-drill through, then you need to do a sheetrock repair. I'm trying to think of if I can sketch what is the best way of doing this. So now drywall texturing and repair to make it look like, I'm trying to think if I think I might have some pictures up in my, on my website. My website, by the way, is livable.online. That's it. Livable.online. Nice, simple, easy, quick. I do need to make some adjustments to it, and I'm trying to remember what pictures I've got up and what pictures I don't. So, but in that case, I'm pretty sure it's on the website. There was an electrician had come in and did a ceiling heater kind of system. He had to run wiring through. It was one of those really small 5-story townhouses. So it's like each floor is just one room, but then there's a lot of stories. So he ran electrical through the whole house. And to do that, he drilled, round holes, roughly, I would say the size of a smoke detector. And he placed them every so many, maybe every foot, so he could run the wiring to the next section, to the next section. So now they have all these holes all over their house. A little bit of problematic. And again, not something you really want to just take a mesh. I did actually mesh the ones in the garage. They're like, we don't really care, but it just looks awful. So those ones I did mesh and drywall, but the rest of the house you kind of want to fix. So what is something I can use as an example? So there's a couple different ways, depending on the size. If you can go beam to beam, that's what I recommend. I definitely recommend taking a straight level measuring, using your stud finder, where your studs, you want about the center of the stud, and you want a nice clean line cut, stud to stud, do the
You would cut
measurements.
away till you get to the studs.
Stud
pretty
to
much.
stud.
Yeah.
If it's a good size, and you definitely want to drill through there, stud to stud, retape, resheet rock, retexture, blend, make it look brand new. In this case, though, these are small round holes randomly. So that is not preferred, because then now I'm completely destroying their house, right? And then you've also got the insulation in the floorings and all of that kind of stuff. So a way, some of this stuff you just may not want to tackle. Drywall matching and just the whole texturing and hiding your tape lines is actually kind of difficult. I do not want to use that. Just getting it just so right. And I'll be honest, I very frequently go in and fix other people's drywall work. I was actually looking at pictures today. I don't think I have that on the website. Okay.
You wouldn't do something like use a hole saw to like cut a piece of drywall like round that would match it and then patch up like that, would you?
I'll tell you exactly what I did.
Okay.
I'm just trying to find what kind of tools I have handy. Okay, so okay, how's that work? Little coaster.
Perfect.
Hold. So I want the sheetrock cut for the same size, basically, but I also need I wasn't prepared for this show until I got other stuff here. Okay. But I want my sheetrock to be the same. Now, also check your depth. Your depth is just huge, especially if you're going to do a patch job. And again, this gets kind of complicated and it is a lot of work. I'm not going to lie to you. This is a lot of work, but if you do it a lot, you just kind of get used to the system. Okay. So I want just this little round circular. I want it up on my ceiling. But I don't want to cut beam to beam. I don't want to make this big whole huge mess. So what I did was took pieces of wood, not paper. Fairly, you want it to be not like just your wedge, because those split too easy when you put screws on it. So I put those where on the inside of the hole. So now let's say that this isn't here, it's just a hole.
Mhm.
So I'm going to put a piece of wood here, and I'm going to put a piece of wood here where the hole is, and I'm going to screw this wood into the drywall. So what that did now was give me wood where my drywall hole was to work with.
Mhm.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I've got my screws here. So I've got my wood attached here, and I've got my wood attached here. But now where I need my drywall, now I actually have wood to screw into.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay,
Build like a
so-
frame.
So you need to put the piece of
Exactly.
wood up
Yeah.
there first and then drill the
Yeah.
patch into it. Okay.
Yeah, no, because I need my wood there also, especially for a ceiling or something that's got, well, most drywall has a hole on the other side actually, because it's drywall, beams, gap, beams, more drywall. So yeah, so I need this wood attached. In this case, it's a ceiling, but even if it were wall, it's going to be the same principle that applies. And then now I can take now that I have this wood to work with, I really would like 3 hands, but I don't have them. So now that I have this wood in place, then now when I put in my new piece of sheetrock, I'm drilling that to this wood.
That makes sense.
So
That's great.
depending on the size of the hole and how you need it. Now, once this is done though, the same rules apply. You still need to tape off all of those edges. You still need to do the layers of mud. You still need to blend the mud and expand it. Sheetrock or drywall is an illusion. That bumper hold is always there. You just want to smooth out that so that your eye doesn't catch it. So you just make it just flow. And then you do your best to match your texture. And that's usually where you can really tell that a repair happened, is because the texture, when it came out the gun, when the house was brand new, how pretty that is. It was the same gun, the same nozzle, the same size spray, the same type of spray. Once you start adding different sprays, different textures, then usually that's where you can tell that the drywall happened. So
Which we do have a hopper at the tool library for texture, but that's
huh?
we do have a hopper at the tool library for texture. and
Yeah,
spray.
that's usually an overkill. That's a hopper. You're going to do a room
A
or a
whole
ceiling.
room. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're
Well-
just going to do a little spot, there's a few different ways of doing that, but it really is a skill, and it is something that needs to be practiced. So if you do it, here's the great news. If you do it, it looks horrible. Sand it down, do it again. You do it, it looks horrible. Sand it down, do it again. If you can, practice at a friend's house. Okay, so
Catherine had a question that I think you kind of answered with that then, because she said that the room, a room in her house, I think I've been to her house, and I think this is Logan's room, if I'm not mistaken, and it is textured and it's like sandpaper. It's like so over textured. Can she step it back, or what's going to happen? Other than
Okay.
obviously, well, go ahead.
now I work on houses that were built in the 1800s as well as brand new, with that 5-story single room townhouse. So back in the day, they used all kinds of fun stuff to texture. One of the things that they used was walnuts. And I actually have in my texturing, I've got a whole shelf full of different types of texturing, sandpaper or sand that you add, nuts, gravel. And then of course you've got the popcorn, you've got the knockdown. Oh my word, when I did I helped out with the hurricane rebuilds, and they used a swish pattern in their ceilings. So
Yeah,
then you
the
have to
swoosh.
match. So that's all manual matching swish to try to,
80s. So
yeah, but to
So
match
my
one of those
question
patterns
is-
is almost,
My question is, how do I untexture it?
okay. So that's where I went with, sorry, why I brought up the different things. If it's walnut or sand that's mixed into the paint to give it texture, I would recommend a scraper.
Mm.
And you're just gonna have to,
How do I tell what it is that made the texture?
how it comes off. if you take a piece of sandpaper and you just do like this and the bumps just aren't as bumpy anymore, then you've just got a regular, then yeah, just take and you'll just have it less bumpy. But if when you do that, the lumps are still there, only now you've got black dots, it's because they had a substance and they didn't texture that separate. What they did was they put that texture in the primer of the paint and then put it on that way. So if when you sandpaper, now you have a polka dotted wall, that is an actual compound, like a walnut piece. They ground them up is what they did. Or sand or something that was mixed in. And that's pretty much going to have to just be scraped off.
And depending.
It's not hard work, but it's time consuming.
Isn't asbestos always the concern?
You can
with
actually-
certain generations.
Not necessarily,
Okay.
because the different contractors use different materials. And if they used walnut, I mean, if they just took their lunch and crunched it up, they probably didn't spend the money on the chemical for asbestos. But you can actually buy asbestos kits. You can buy them online, Amazon, you can buy them Home Depot, you can buy them Lowe's. They're not very expensive. I remember 10, 20 bucks. And it'll tell you to mask up, put on, because I mean, hey, we're Zoom, we're not wearing masks, but for the most part, we have our masks and our stuff on. And you just take a sample, you send it off to the lab, or you could hire someone to come in and take the sample and test yourself. But if you have any questions or concerns about asbestos, always have it tested first. Better safe than sorry. And it's not that expensive. The cost to your lungs and the cost to your person is much higher than that 10, 20 bucks to have that sent off. Right. Okay, so can I talk about my other problem?
Yeah, there was one more question, but let's talk
Okay.
about your problem real quick and then.
What was
It is
the
7:08.
grout?
Yeah,
What is the best way to replace grout? Yeah, tedious, time consuming and work. There is no best way. You just literally have to scrape it. It's very obnoxious and annoying. And I do a lot of remodels and house touch-ups, so I'm very familiar with how much work it is. You can buy some chemicals that have some helpfulness, but really no. It's there's going to be if you go to the tile section, they have a whole grout scraper, tile scraper, and they have all of these little things with all this little stuff and little sanding wedges.
So
Yeah.
can you just, so if you scrape out all the grout from your tile, are the tiles gonna stay? And then second part of my question is, can I just put new grout in where there's holes?
Yes.
so you can patch grout instead of maybe replacing it or like take a part out. That part by
But
go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know what tile it is. Decorative little baby tile is adhered differently, but most of your bathroom tiles, your big tiles are like in your floor. What I do a lot of patches, the floor where it gets old and worn. Those are actually, they have an adhesive underneath them. There's a compound holding them structurally and the grout is added later. But when I do touch-ups, basically that's all I'm doing is I'm just scraping that top layer of grout out, shop vac it, clean it up, and then redoing a new layer of grout. Because it's not a question of now, I mean, if you had like real water damage or there's some destruction in there, that's a whole different issue. But if it's ugly now and you want it fixed, then that's a really good way of doing it. And you can make sure it's clean, because a lot of times mold or mildew or something will get in that grout. So make sure you get all of that cleaned out. But yeah, you can just add some new grout to those areas. Color matching could be an issue though, especially if it's white. White is one of the hardest colors in the world to match. So it might be easier to just scrape a top layer of all of the grout and then do a white, and then make sure you have lots of water and lots of sponges and lots of rags, because it's, again, tedious and time consuming.
Irene said that it's
just
the
grout
stripping.
stripping.
Yeah. So are you saying that it's the plastic or like the more?
So you're
like,
talking
flexible
caulking.
grout?
You're
Yeah,
talking
that's-
caulking. Caulking is easier. They do have some sprays and some stuff for caulking remover. To me, I think that they kind of make things slimy and messy personally. But they have scrapers that are designed specifically for They have like a shape like this, and there's so many different ones. They have metal ones, they have plastic ones, they have all kinds of, and those you just get back behind it and pull it. If you saw my, and there's caulking remover spray. So I would take the sharp or the whatever and scrape as much as you can off, and then use the spray to dissolve the rest and clean that up. And then if you're still having some residue, rubbing alcohol usually works pretty good to take the rest of that off and just scrape that. But yeah, caulking is much easier. Grout is a lot of work. Okay, so okay. So
It's
this is
7:12, so I want
Real quick.
to maybe we're doing really great. If everyone can hang on, then feel free to do so. Christina has some really good points that she's going to bring to us. I just want to be respectful of everybody's time. So if you need to
Yes.
go, thank you. But we'll record. We're still recording, and we'll keep talking for a few more minutes.
okay, kind of like the little Allen screw that's missing that for your towel rack. A huge problem I get all the time is cabinets and door frames and other things that are, because the wood has now gotten loose. Doors in particular, the hinges aren't sticking anymore. The screws keep coming out. Very common. Kitchen cabinets. A lot of that is made out of a really thin press board. So you can't, and you don't want to go buy brand new kitchen cabinets, but it's not working. You're not getting connection anymore. So I did here it is right here. So I kind of, this has got a few different holes in it. So here's my little screw in my cabinet. And it's just spinning and spinning. And now, oh, sorry. And it's just spinning and spinning. I can't get it to tighten up anymore. And my cabinet door is just kind of flipping off. And it's annoying. And the damage is getting worse. Most of the time, the damage is getting worse. This is the same thing with your doors, frames, where you have those big hinges. Same thing, they're loose. The screw keeps spinning and spinning. You're not getting any traction. And now it's really getting loose and there's more damage and the hole is getting bigger. So a couple different ways of fixing this. Of course, simple. Just use a bigger screw. Just use a bigger screw. Sometimes you can go deeper and you'll get traction there. In your kitchen cabinets though, a lot of times you can't do that or it'll break through the other side. So then you want something that's thicker without the depth. But the other way of fixing this, you guys are gonna love this. So the problem is you're not getting traction. There's a big hole there and you're not actually getting to stick. But this happens all over the place. If it's wood, now if it's sheetrock, we've already discussed that. But if it's wood is going to deteriorate. It's going to break down. But you need whatever it is to grab, whatever hinge you need that to stick. It's a toothpick. You can get these at the dollar store, the grocery store, your mom's house. And you just take
want
it
to
in.
replace that surface area, right? Like you're trying
You just need something. So actually, this is not a good. Because this one I drilled all the way through. So I'm going to use this hole up here. But you just stick it in there, you break it off. And if the hole's gotten wide enough, you're going to need a few pieces. Same thing, break it off. And just keep putting the toothpick in until you can't get.
Shove a bunch in there and then saw them off. So it's a nice clean finish. You
shouldn't have if you've got a hole that big, you've got a whole new issue. But for the most part, one toothpick a couple of times, and then your little tiny screw. And then now it's filling in that hole. Oops, this is the wrong end.
So forget all the fancy like infomercial stuff that claims just toothpicks.
And now I'm not spinning. Now I have traction. And the other issue too is a lot of times, oddly, most people don't keep 100 different screws in their house. It's just weird. So that's the screw that you have. And you have a toothpick that's right there. Just break it off a couple times. If you can, be detailed, but you usually don't need to saw toothpick material.
There.
You can use just a little blade. maybe
It's
in
basically
your
the
little
same idea
kitchen.
as a shim, you know?
It is
like,
exactly.
You know, it's a shim for a tiny space, so don't feel like
Now-
it's cheapening it. It's, yeah.
Eventually it's going to wear, but eventually it's going to wear. If you buy new cabinets, eventually those screws are going to strip too. Okay, so I mean, I do have other toys and stuff I wanted to show you guys, but that's the two things. Yeah, the two things that always pop up no matter where I go is these screws are loose, this door is crooked and hinging, and the toilet, or well, you know what, actually that is common. The toilet paper thing is falling. So those are things, it doesn't matter why they called me. They could call me for plumbing. They could call me for windows, although I don't do windows unless, well, never mind. I don't do windows. We'll just leave it there. But that's what they're going to ask me to come in the house and take a look at is the door frame that's the kitchen cabinet that's doing and the toilet paper roll is falling off. Okay, so I'm okay to stay
Yeah.
and answer
Well-
any more questions, but I'm not going to extend the class.
I was gonna say,
So-
I mean, I do a lot of speechy kind of things with the tool library, but what it boils down to is a quality of life. You know, you want to not have to worry about your doorknobs falling off or your, you know, your hinges that are loose, and wait, life happens. Yeah. Are you saying that you're?
I'm saying doorknobs are a whole different issue and I'd be
Oh,
happy
well,
to
yeah.
address them, but
No,
that you can't fix that with a toothpick. Okay.
That's true, but you know, you just, there's little things that you want to be able to improve, and that's the whole reason that we're doing this, is that it's, you know, we have the tool library. It seems very, aha, yes, I can use it for projects, and you know, but there's little things we overlook because it's kind of intimidating, and we don't know exactly what to do, and that stops us all from continuing to do it. And I just love that Christina has the sure, yeah, we can do anything attitude, because that's pretty much how I feel about things. Is I just have to figure it out. But you know,
And I do want to go back to that caulking thing, but the other thing is if you were going to throw it away anyways,
try, give it a crack,
Yeah.
see what happens. You know,
yeah. I mean, if it's you don't want to mess with it and you don't want to call someone to fix it, or a lot of times, I'll be honest, I do not work on appliances, microwaves and stuff like that. It's cheaper to just replace it. Because by the
Well-
time you pay someone $85 an hour to work on your microwave and you can buy a new one for $125.
well,
I mean,
I have
there's
two cents on
levels,
that.
but
I just did this. So we noticed that there was some cracking in our the paint of our microwave on the bottom, and it looked
oh,
like
that's a different
there-
issue.
Yeah, well, and I mean, so that's still a problem, like that I would consider. I had to Google. I was like, it's probably safe, and then I look it up, and no, it can cause arcing and stuff. But you know, yes, Cam is absolutely right. Repair cafes, we can do a lot of things. We don't usually do microwaves because there are some chemicals that happen. But this, I was like, this seems simple. Like, this is paint. I know this is a kind of paint that's very specific. So I look online and it's $10. I order the paint, but it takes a really long time to cure. So we did
Yeah.
buy a new one, but now I have the old one. And once it gets a little warmer, I'll sand it, I'll paint it, and it's still totally usable. And yeah, there's tons of online resources for troubleshooting things. And it's a shame that it's easier to repair, you know, replace it rather than fix it. There's, you know, lots of resources. Kimmy shared too, iFixit, for like your technology, your devices and things like that. But, you know, YouTube can be your friend and your enemy, because it can, again, make it seem like it's something that you might not be able to do. So it's nice when we have more information to know when you can and when you can't really approach a project. But yeah, there's certain things. I was also going to say, Christina's also a realtor. And so I encounter a lot of folks that are in transition. Either they've just bought a home in the area, or they're about to sell their home, or they're downsizing. And some of these things, like we're talking about, after you've lived in a home for decades, have deteriorated. And that's, you know, an inevitability to get it to the point where you want to sell your house without having a huge overhaul, remodel thing. Gosh, you know, knowing that the toothpick trick and some other little things can really make a big difference. So
Well,
go ahead.
a lot of, sorry, okay, so a lot of times though, people don't really want to move. They like their location, they like their neighbors. They just are so sick of, and so, yeah, let's just fix it up. So I don't discriminate. You don't have to be buying or selling. I can still go in and fix something that's in place. But I want to go back to the caulking thing, that it did occur to me. Yes, absolutely, positively. There are pictures of that on my website for that last question that came in. But, and that goes back to the remodel and do you buy, so you sell. The caulking, Amanda, we did a couple of videos with caulking. There's actually about 10, but there's primarily 2 different types of caulking. There's one that is water-based and water soluble. You use that around trim, you use that around baseboards, you use that around, and that is just nice and clean and easy, and water cleans that up without any problem. If you are caulking a shower or a kitchen or something that's water-based, it's going to have a silicone in it. It's going to be really messy, really sticky, and really yucky. You get that same glide you would with the water-based and water if you use rubbing alcohol. So make sure when you recaulk your bathroom to have a rubbing alcohol. Vodka doesn't work. It's just horrible. No, rubbing alcohol, put some on your finger. It's usually, this the reason I do this is because I keep the jar and I do like this. I put some on a paper towel. And so I lay a little bit of caulking down, and then you just nice and smooth and easy, and it'll just glide. If you don't use the rubbing alcohol, it's sticky, it's gummy, it makes a mess, it collects yuck and whatever. And then you have your paper towel or your whatever you're willing to throw away with rubbing alcohol in it too. So if you do make a big mess with your caulking, you can just clean that right up again. I prefer to throw it away. It's not worth trying to clean that stuff out of stuff. So the other thing is painting fireplace bricks, absolutely, positively, and I recommend it. If you want your fireplace, that is a number one. I just don't want it to look like this anymore. So then you want to do something specific for fireplaces though. So that's when you're in the paint section, and do not feel like an idiot. If you need to ask them which ones are for heat, although there's a lot of spray cans that say heat. If you don't know, make sure you get the right one. If it's an active using fireplace, you want something that's gonna, like she said with the microwave, that's gonna be an appliance paint, which is a completely different compound. It's not something you're gonna pick up at Michael's. It's something you're gonna have to custom order.
And even with that, I've caulked my, my fireplace, the gap between my fireplace and the roof too, but you need a high heat silicone caulk with that too. So different situations call for different materials, paints, and supplies and things like that. Knowing, even if you don't use your fireplace,
The next person might,
and you don't want to, have that on your conscience. So,
yeah. The other thing is what happens if it snowed for more than a week and we lost power? So even though it may not be in your plan to use your fireplace, if you got cold enough, you're going to use it. So in the spray can, if you're going to use spray cans, make sure you have everything taped off. Tape off the children, tape off the husband, tape off everything, because
30
that's
feet away.
30 feet away. It will spray everywhere. You want small, light, and you want it to dry all the way before you put another coat. You're like, oh no, I could just, you can do that. It'll stay tacky for the rest of your life, but you can do that. So lights, do a light coat, let it dry. And again, that spray will go everywhere, and always wear, yeah, because if you're using a high heat spray can, that stuff's toxic.
And you're making it an aerosol, so you're putting it into the air. And I can tell you from years of art, you don't want to blow your nose for 3 days and have it be blue or whatever shade of.
But they do make it in a roll-on or a brush too. You don't have to use the aerosol, and if you can avoid using the aerosol, I would avoid it. I prefer any type of aerosol, even like painting someone's house. I'm not going to spray unless nobody lives there, because that stuff will go everywhere. Okay.
Well, yeah, I'm going to just say thank you guys so much for everything. I'm getting hungry, so I'm going to maybe end this one, but I love this. I'm so glad we can share with everyone, and we got to answer some questions. We got to discuss and chat a little bit. So I hope it was worthwhile for everyone that could join today. And Christina, thank you as always. You were always making me question my choices in like, I mean, my choices for
You're like, I should have
projects.
taped off the children last time I sprayed that.
Taped off the children. Yeah, I seriously, there's paint on all the things. But anyway, yeah, this is always really insightful. There's never anything that I feel like I am, oh yeah, I got this, without knowing, oh, maybe I should question why or how or what. So, and then the cascade, we talked a little bit about that, but you know, one project leading to another, just, you know, take it easy, use a tool library so you're not sinking a ton of money into things, and
Yes.
you know, do what's feasible and safe. So Catherine did share your website in the chat, and I'll send it out in an email to everybody afterwards, everybody that registered. And there it is again. Yeah, hopefully we can do this again very soon. I think we're going to start some gardening classes in the spring, and then I want to maybe make this a regular thing. I know Christina's got a lot on her plate right now. She's doing some transitioning, so we'll figure it out. But stay tuned, and April 9th for the next repair cafe. If you have stuff you can carry, bring it in to fix, and we will just keep doing what we do at the tool library and trying our best and getting those tools ready for you for spring. And Christina, I think you gave me some good things I need to go make sure are in inventory now. So appreciate
Amanda,
that.
did the last class get recorded? Is there a way to see the last one?
It did, but it triggered an emotional response when I tried to edit it. So I will, I'll work on getting it more edited, but we were hacked, fun fact. So it was weird. So I'll go back to it now that this one is done and that we've made amends for our icky vibes of the last time. So anyway.
And I just wanted to FYI, if anybody has any questions that they didn't feel that they could, you feel free to email me.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. Let's see. It's
That's
yes,
there.
livablehomesrealty@gmail.com. Is that the one?
Well, if they go to my
Or just
website,
the
they'll have all the
website?
contact. Yeah, they'll have all the contact information. I think you can message me there from there too. I keep meaning to actually do something with the website, but. You know,
You
sometimes
can't
it
get a
doesn't
hold
happen.
of her, get a hold of me, and we'll make it work. I'll send, like
Yeah.
I said, I'll send everybody that registered your contact information, email and website. And yeah, thank you again. I hope everybody got to ask their questions. You know, we had a few people here, so that was great. And we'll, you know, keep going for tips. I have Christina's card always at the tool library. So if I'm ever like, here, take this.
Yeah, I can't always answer my phone if I'm covered in whatever, but I can usually answer an email or a text within a reasonable amount of time. So.
Awesome. Okay.
Everybody have a
Well,
wonderful dinner. Thank you for your time.
Yes. Thanks, guys. Enjoy your evening. And
Thank
I never
you.
know how to stop it, but I think, can you stop recording, Kathy?